Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the spring edition of the 2024 Weatherly Hill Climb in beautiful Weatherly, Pennsylvania. We thank you for joining us for live coverage of the spring edition Saturday here in Weatherly. And before we went on the air, we were talking how beautiful the weather is. You are looking live at Weatherly, Pennsylvania, home of the Weatherly Hill Climb. I'm Marty Burns, joined by Tom Knorr and President and CEO. Any other titles that I need to mention just slip into me? Chris Barrett from the Pocono Mountain Visitors Bureau and PTN, and welcome to those watching on PTN. We're here, I think unofficially, Tom, this is the third heat of the morning so far?
I believe it's the second.
Second. I lose track every so often.
They have about 80 cars, which is a good turnout. And you said great weather.
And Tom, we remember you from the racing when we started doing the Giants Despair Hill Climb and here in Weatherly, and then you went on to be president of the Pennsylvania Hill Climb Association. And we were talking before we went on the air, and I was unaware, and we should mention that everyone here at WYLN, we want to send out condolences to the Danko family on the passing of Jack Danko, and you were telling me Mrs. Danko had passed away about a year or two ago, and they were very instrumental in running of the Giants Despair Hill Climb, and I know we dealt with them a lot, and
Great people.
and I know they also raced here in Weatherly, and we just wanted to send out our condolences to the Danko family, because it's going to be very different not to see Jack here racing.
Yep, absolutely. Yeah, we worked together a lot. About 10 years ago, I founded the Giants Despair Hill Climbing Association, which I was really shocked that it did work out, that we combined the fire company along with the people running the Giant. And that's ended up working out extremely well. We have a lot of members, which you need, because these are all volunteers, right?
Got to say thank you. We always get taken care of very well here by President Joe Seibert and everybody from the Weatherly Hill Climb Association. And while we have a moment, I don't know if we had a mechanical issue up at the top, but racing has stopped for the moment. But Chris, for the Pocono Mountain Visitors Bureau to be involved with this Weatherly Hill Climb, I know we always talk about it. Just reiterate the commitment that the Pocono Mountain Visitors Bureau has to this hill climb and the residents of Weatherly.
Yeah, great event. Great to be back here again, and with Tom and Marty, just one of the premier events in the Pocono Mountains, especially here in Carbon County. We just love the hill climb. We know how important it is. Joe and the association have always done such a great job. Many people in over the 63-year history of the hill climb have done so much to put this on the map, and we really love supporting it. And I want to say hello to everybody on Channel 35, but also too on PTN, the Pocono Television Network, on the many cable systems we're on, and also to WDPN 2.8 Wilmington, Philadelphia. So you're watching the Weatherly Hill Climb from the Pocono Mountains in Carbon County, which is close to Jim Thorpe, just to give you a little bit of perspective.
And Chris, I have to sincerely thank you for pinch hitting. If there's one thing that the Phillies aren't doing well, it's pinch hitting, and you did a great job last year. My goddaughter Lacey was graduating from Hazleton Area High School. It got moved to Saturday, and I had to make that tough decision, but ultimately it wasn't that tough. You only get to see your goddaughter graduate from high school once, so I wanted to thank you for pinch hitting for me last year.
And Tom was great. Tom was here all day. He kept me in line. He did great color for everything, so it was awesome. It was a great day.
Well, if Tom's in charge of keeping people in line, he's got his hands full with me. So, while we have the moment, and we're talking about the Pocono Mountain Visitors Bureau, I mentioned the Phillies, and when you're talking about tourism in Pennsylvania, of course you start with Philadelphia with the great history, not only here in the state but nationally. Chocolate Town USA and Hershey, they've expanded so much from when I remember when I was a kid, which was a long time ago. I know there's a lot of excitement in town with the Hershey Bears on the verge of the Calder Cup Finals. Obviously Harrisburg being our state capital, and out west Pittsburgh and some of those other locales. But recently, Governor Shapiro was in the area talking about his push and his campaign for tourism in the state of Pennsylvania and trying to highlight different areas. And one of the areas he highlighted, Chris, he was here in the Poconos.
Yeah, we were so thrilled. He was here in the Poconos about 2 weeks ago, May 21st, I believe. No, it was the 20th. And they announced the new state brand, which had been Pursuit of Happiness, which is now the Great American Getaway. So really it kind of underscores how important an asset tourism is to Pennsylvania and how valuable tourism is to all of our surrounding states. So there are about 72 million people within a 2 to 3 hour drive of the Pocono Mountains, which is crazy because there are 350 million people in the U.S. So we have a lot of folks who are visiting the Poconos, about 30 million a year, and him coming here to visit us, and he actually visited a lot of attractions here, a few in Carbon County with his family, and he got into an RV with his family, and he started in the Poconos at Barley Creek first, and then they went to Philly and came back to Lake Wallenpaupack. The paintball folks here in Carbon County, and then they stayed overnight. And he's done whitewater rafting here in Carbon County. So he and his family really do like the Poconos. They love the outdoors. They love recreation. And we were just really, really thrilled to have him here, for 2 weeks, which was great.
And
hoodies, t-shirts.
I don't know if it could be seen immediately, but the impact of him being here, and as you said, doing a lot of the activities that you can do in the Pocono Mountains, and just highlighting the Pocono Mountains, what it does not only for your member businesses, but your organization as well.
Oh, it does. And I think the thing that excites us the most is that the governor is really asking the legislature to appropriate $18 million to promote tourism outside of Pennsylvania. Some within, but mostly outside of Pennsylvania. We haven't had a governor in 3 or 4 terms really who's prioritized tourism as an economic development tool. Mm-hmm. So we're very, very fortunate for that, because one of the things that we do is we gather a lot of data, and for events like this, for instance, a lot of people don't think about it, but 52% of the people that visit the Poconos come from outside of the Poconos, and that's New York. So Long Island, the city, a little bit north, those are all outside dollars coming into the state that really wouldn't be here without tourism. And there's a lot of other great industries in the state too, but it does bring in outside tourism dollars, which creates tax dollars, right, which funds all the things we know that taxes do. So for us, it's a really great focus on our industry, and one that was really sorely lacking, for the last couple of terms. The last 2 governors really were not what we would call tourism. Last 3 actually were not what we would call tourism governors. Ridge was. He really understood the importance of tourism, and then of course he went to the Homeland Security Secretary. But so since then Governor Shapiro has been the first governor who's really prioritized it.
And you mentioned the advertising, and that's key because, you can go home tonight and watch a sporting event, a different show on television, and you see I Love New York, or you see where they're promoting New Jersey, Ocean City, Maryland, Myrtle Beach, that type of thing. So to get the advertising out, and maybe not so much in Pennsylvania, but get it out into those neighboring states is so key to what you're trying to do here in the Poconos.
Right, and actually, buying television in New York and Philadelphia, for instance, is not inexpensive. So New York is the #1 cost media market in the world, right, and Philadelphia is #4, which look at how close it is to us. So to buy a 30 or 15-second spot in those markets is incredibly expensive. So anytime you could have a helping hand to get that message out to visit Pennsylvania is a good thing. And I know a lot of folks will say, well, it's more traffic. There are a lot of things that people really say, but the bottom line is a lot of studies have shown that for every dollar we spend marketing, it returns $5 to $6 in spend to the Commonwealth, and hundreds of millions of dollars in state, local, and federal taxes. So there's a huge return from an economic benefit standpoint.
And Tom, let's talk a little bit about the hill climb. We talk so often where you see participants come from various states. It's just not drivers that are local, whether it be Weatherly, Wilkes-Barre, that type of thing. But you're getting drivers from South Carolina or even up in the New England area. Talk about how important it is to put the word out about the hill climb, whether it be Weatherly or up at Giants Despair or wherever, that you get these drivers come from out of state.
8 states are represented here, and one Canadian province, Ontario. In fact, we have so many from Ohio, Florida, South Carolina, North Carolina, West Virginia, but really they come from all over. Of course, this is, in my opinion, the most technically difficult hill climb of all that we've ever run. It's only a mile, and we have those that are longer, but you have some incredible turns here. Turn 1's very, very fast, off camber, which has a tendency to force you off the road. And then turn 2 is a common switchback. But the next turn, the wall is unbelievable. You have to drive it to believe it. It's extremely steep. If you don't take that turn correctly, it really slows you down. And then the next turn's the same as turn 2, and then we come to the jump, where a lot of cars get airborne. I know I used to get airborne, and it's extremely important to approach that turn so you come down the right way. And then you have a very fast left-hander going towards the finish. But there is, and I've run a lot of hill climbs in the Northeast, this is the most technically difficult, and I think most drivers would agree with that.
And before we get into maybe some of the strategies and some of the rules and that type of thing, I always stress year after year after year, it's safety first. And I know the drivers usually have a meeting. They started here this morning at 9 a.m. I guess the meeting is like 8 a.m. just to go over a lot of the safety requirements and things like that. If you want to just touch on how safety is job one here.
Well, first of all, we have novices here, and we have always encouraged them to take it easy. We don't want them to crash on their first run and to learn the course. And as a matter of fact, we don't want any incidents with the novices the first 2 days. As far as safety is concerned, you could actually take your street car, the car you drive to work, bring it here, and you could run it as long as you meet the safety standards, such as a minimum roll bar. Some classes are cages. You have to have the seat belts, the helmet, fire extinguisher, and this year every driver must have a neck restraint, commonly called the what do they call them, Hans device, and they really protect the head. It actually connects the helmet and the seat belts. I really didn't like them. For hill climbing, it was all right because you can't turn your head hardly at all. But in road racing, you really have to have good mirrors. Any of you watched the movie Ford versus Ferrari? You saw those guys looking at each other? That never happens. I'll guarantee you that. Everything in a race car happens very, very fast. So, yeah, that's one of the new features. A lot of these cars have fuel cells, no gas tanks. If you've noticed in racing, we don't have gasoline fires anymore, and that's why. It's a steel encasement, has a rubber bladder in it, and it's filled with foam. You can't siphon gas out of one of those things. I know, I've tried.
Yeah. So let's talk about some of the strategy. Sometimes a lot of people think it's average, it's your best time of the weekend as far as your particular class and where you place and so on and so forth. So fitting in there, like you said, if you haven't done this course before, maybe Saturday or even the morning is your chance to just go up the hill, see what it's like, because it's not it may not hurt you. You may make your hay come tomorrow on Sunday.
That's correct. And there are instructors here that will, especially with the new drivers, they'll tell them that this is the line you need to take. Well, I don't agree with that. It all depends on a lot of variables. The power of the car, the brakes, the driver themselves. For example, I talked about that wall turn. The way I would take that turn in a 1.3 engine, much different than some of these really high horsepower cars. So, it's trial and error.
Now, beautiful weather for us sitting here. I know sometimes some drivers had said they like it a little warmer, a little more humid. Just talk about what a weather day like today does for the driver.
Well, these events will run rain or shine, and if it's warm, the surface, this is macadam, of course, it actually have better traction, depending on the kind of tires that you run. Some people run slicks that has no tread at all, but most cars run better when it actually warms up. And as far as the rain, you really need to have a treaded tire, because if you don't, slicks is like driving on ice.
And we talked about the numbers of the hill climb and that, and we talked about drivers coming from out of state. But when you see local drivers from Weatherly participating here in the Weatherly Hill Climb, how important is it that it stays fan friendly? Because you see a lot of younger fans out there,
right?
Because I'm sure those Weatherly drivers were here as kids watching, and they said that was something they wanted to do. How important is it? We talk so much about how the pits are fan friendly. As long as maybe they're not having a major repair on a car, they're pretty open in showing off their car to the fans. Talk about how important that is for the success of the hill climb.
Well, things have changed radically since when I started in the 60s. The entry fee this weekend's $180. At that time it was $15. But all the pit areas that you see here, they were not here back then. They are now, which really accommodates all the drivers. Social media has had a lot to do with the promotion of our events. More people know about it. For example, you can watch YouTube today and watch this on your TV station. So that's a very important factor in.
1551 is up next. And I know the thing that always catches my eye year after year is how creative the drivers are with color schemes, and obviously they have to get their own sponsorship because we talked about if you're coming out of state, it's your own dollar to get yourself here with your vehicle and to race and for all the materials and stuff like that. But to see a lot of these vehicles where the drivers are so creative with the color scheme.
Yeah. Oh yeah, there's one car here, the guy lives in Bronx in New York. It's a very nice looking car. It's blue and black. I'll point it out when I see it come up to the line.
Perfect. Now Chris, I know you're here in an official capacity representing the Pocono Mountain Visitors Bureau and helping us out. But I also know you're also a fan. You like enjoying seeing these cars too.
Oh, I love it. I remember coming here, oh my gosh, 40 years ago. So I think the thing I love about this, and Tom and I talked about this a lot last year, and he even said it a little bit now, you could walk through, talk to the folks who are actually working on the cars, who are driving them, talk to them about their engine setups, their tire setups, some of the things that Tom just talked about with fuel cells, for instance. It's a great learning experience too.
And here one of our great camera shots of Mike Axlerless heading up the start of the Weatherly Hill Climb. And the Weatherly Hill Climb is brought to you by Fairway Subaru in conjunction with the Pocono Mountain Visitors Bureau and being seen on PTN. Hello to everyone watching over the air in the various channels that Chris described earlier. There were too many for me to remember, so we'll touch on them as we go throughout the day, and we get a look at Brian Fritzler. And
He designed, engineered, and built it. Wow. It is a one-off. He's a retired chemical engineer, great driver.
And maybe we'll touch on it later. Was that a little mini camera that I saw on the right side of his car?
A little what?
Mini camera?
Yeah. Yeah, a lot of the cars have inboard cameras. I had a couple of those. It really is a great tool because you can go back and look and you can analyze, what possible mistakes that you made, whether it's hill climbing or road racing. They're very handy.
It's great. The GoPros right now, the technology is so awesome.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And it's immediate. It's you can come back down and then immediately you can check and be ready for your next run. Let's talk about that real quick, Tom. The adjustments. You mentioned you have the camera on there. We can immediately go and see what maybe mistakes you might have made or what you want to do different. But just talk about the adjustments that you have, not only day to day, but maybe heat to heat.
Well, of course, you don't make a whole lot, but tire pressures are very, very important. You can make adjustments. Yeah, for something. Now I can hear you. Really couldn't hear you. Yeah, you can make adjustments to the tire pressures, and elevation affects, of course, your air pressure, which affects carburation. So you can make some adjustments on that. As far as other things such as timing, we don't usually fool with that. A lot of these cars run racing fuel, which now is $15 a gallon. That's because racing fuel has lead in it. You need that because of the high compression these engines run.
So, Tom, are any of these engines fuel injected?
Yeah, oh yes, there are quite a few here that are turbocharged, fuel injected.
So,
a lot of these cars are far from stock.
So the vehicle we're looking at now, Jeff Craig, number 9, would that be carbureted, do you think?
Yes. Yeah. Yeah, the folks that own that car, Ellie Sharp and Vince Zlosky, they're from Stroudsburg.
Oh, is that right?
Number 523 is next on the line.
And how important, Tom, is the start from the starting position? Because a lot of times you don't want to spin your tires because that just holds you back.
You spin your tires, it might be impressive. You see all the smoke, but you're not going anywhere. The secret, of course, the timing doesn't start until you hit the starting line. So it is extremely important that you get the pedal, to the metal, but also the tires, you have to have traction. So you have to release the clutch in such a way that quickly move out. I'll tell you what, if you get a lousy start, you're going to be that much slower going into turn 1.
Right.
The time is made on the straights, not the turns. It's not how fast you go through a turn, it's how fast you're coming out of a turn. That's true of any racing.
Now, maybe if you wanted to comment, Tom, we're seeing this particular driver being held up here, Ian Brown. We have checkpoints all around, and we're waiting to hear clear before the next driver goes up.
Every corner has a corner worker, and their job is, and they communicate with the people down below here. If there's something that happens, they call down immediately, and they have a red flag, which is used to stop the next car. We have more than one car in the hill at a time, usually 2. So again, safety is prime importance. No question about that.
Number 69.
And I don't know if something happened to Ian Brown. He hit the brakes, and now he's continuing on.
A few years ago, unfortunately, he passed away a few years ago. Did you know Jimmy Barron from White Tower?
Yep.
Tire. He went up the hill. He had a midget like mine. He went over the jump, and his steering wheel.
Oh, wow.
That was He said he tried to steer it with his hand, which of course doesn't work. But he was, thank God, was able to get it slowed down and stopped.
Jimmy Barron and Lehigh Tire were good friends to us, did a lot of sponsorship, and I think one time as
they're
the
Fairway guys.
courtesy truck from Fairway Subaru heading up, I remember one of the times camera on his car, and then he got us over video. We ended up running it one time on air for one of the Weatherly Hill climbs, but it was basically, like you said, we got to see exactly the route that Jimmy took and be able to see from start to finish what
A sense of what it's like also to ride in a race car. I ran pit race a number of years ago, which is and they allowed to take spectators out, charge $25 for charity. I took my wife out. We typically go 80%, but with her I went 90%. She screamed all
Tom, curious, the September event. So course is the same.
Right.
Course is exactly the same. Same amount of drivers, maybe, right? So just a different time of year. So what time of year did you like the most? Did you like the June race or the September?
Well, actually, I like both of them. When I started out, there was only one Weatherly Hill climb, but as things are now, I would rather run in the spring and fall. It is just too hot in the summer. I ran a race in New Jersey a couple of years ago where I had to sit in the car for a half hour because there was a problem. And I almost died. It was so hot in that car. Because you've got, I didn't say anything about the driver's suit. Under that, you have Nomex fire-resistant underwear. You got to wear gloves and the helmet, and you don't want to sit in a race car for very long. You know, the pro drivers, they have air-conditioned suits.
Yeah.
But we don't have that.
Well, we have Pocono coming up in July.
Right.
Right. So the Xfinity race on Saturday, then the regular NASCAR race on Sunday. So a lot of stuff happening ahead of that as well, and I love that race because you can get, especially on Saturday, you have to have the correct pit pass, but you can get close to some of the cars to take a look at them.
Right.
But yeah, you can see.
Yeah, I've been following Sage Karam. You know who he is? He's been running some of the Xfinity races. He's from Nazareth. His father is a wrestling coach. I coached wrestling for 10 years, so I've met him a couple times. His last race, he was in, I think, 5th place, and somebody hit him from the back. He's had a lot of bad luck, but he moves from the back to the front. I was really impressed.
Yeah, we're looking forward to the Xfinity. That's the Pocono Mountains 225. We always sponsor that, but we get to know some of the drivers, and they like the Poconos, believe it or not, for fishing. They love the Poconos. So they'll say to me, well, I have my little spots. Well, where are they? I have my little spots.
That's like Baker's, Chris. The secret ingredient is secret for a reason.
That's right. I haven't seen any Mustangs yet.
Looks like this heat will be concluding in the next couple of racers. Don't see anybody lined up, so we'll be finishing up this heat. Gerald Woody in the 27 as the Weatherly Hill Climb is brought to you by Fairway Subaru in conjunction to everyone watching this morning and into this afternoon on PTN, the Pocono Television Network.
So if you are watching on PTN, this is the Weatherly Hill Climb coming from the Pocono Mountains, Carbon County, in the Pocono Mountains, close to Jim Thorpe. This is his 63rd year. I believe it's the 4th year, Marty. We're carrying this on PTN live. So we want to say hello to all those folks on multiple cable systems in 4 states. as well as WDPN 2.8 Wilmington, Philadelphia. So thank you for joining us today and watching the Weatherly Hill Climb.
Formula Super. Formula Super.
Ted Klaus in the 78. Yeah, they were working on this car last night until at least 10 or 11 o'clock. They couldn't get fuel to the carburetor. All right, 53. This is Mark Abel, I believe. I call him Mr. Excitement. This guy really is really a great driver.
You know, that looks like the Batmobile.
Yep.
You know?
Yep.
That's a
A
gorgeous
couple
car.
years ago in his Mustang, he backed into the telephone pole up here and totally knocked that over in a Mustang.
Love that car. That's got to be a one-of-a-kind manufactured vehicle,
Yeah,
right?
I'm not sure about that.
And we have a hometown favorite here. Blaze Ocean of Weatherly, 1980 modified Chevrolet number 01. And when he blows the horn, you'll know why he's 01.
And now we come back to the starting line, and we talked about those locals, Tom. Ray Koshin, one of those gentlemen, and
Yeah, he's been involved. He's been involved for a good number of years, and I think he also is involved with the association, I believe.
Number 89 is up next.
Yeah, he runs all the hill climbs. As a matter of fact, I think there are some new hill climbs in the South, in Tennessee, Kentucky. I think he's gone down to run those events too.
That was one thing I wanted to ask Tom is, how many other hill climbs are there?
There are 6 currently.
All across the East Coast or across the U.S.?
What's
Are
that?
they all across the East Coast or across the U.S.?
I don't-
I'm sorry. Across the East Coast or the U.S.?
Still can't hear. I can't hear anything on the look.
any better, Tom?
Yeah, now I'm getting, that's probably too much.
Flutter.
Too much?
No flutter.
How about now?
Yeah, that's better.
Okay. Go ahead, Chris.
Sorry about that. So, Tom, there's 6. Are they mostly in the Northeast or all across the United States?
They're all in Pennsylvania, northeastern Pennsylvania, really. We had one in Maryland called Polish Mountain, but that's been canceled because we have a lot of older people running these, and when they decide they've had too much, we don't really have enough of the younger people to get involved. So that's a critical factor. When I started hill climbing, we had 12 hill climbs a year. But a lot of those courses were deemed to be unfit because they were too bumpy or too many homes nearby. As you notice, there's only one house on this hill climb,
Right.
because we get
Go ahead.
PennDOT to close these roads. There's a process that we have to go through. So the local police, the state police, have no jurisdiction here whatsoever. This is a closed road. A few years ago, I was always the first car up the hill in Group 1. I crossed the finish line, and what was coming towards me? A car. This lady wanted to go pick up her mail in Weatherly. She went beyond the barricade. If I would have left the line a couple seconds later, I wouldn't be sitting here, because you're going pretty fast after that finish line. But they finally had to get the police up there to get her out. She was insistent. I have to go get my mail.
Well, this heat has come to an end. Let's take our first break of the morning. You're watching the Spring Edition, Saturday, 2024, in Weatherly, the Weatherly Hill Climb, brought to you by Fairways Subaru You're also watching on PTN, the Pocono Television Network. We'll be back right after this.
What is great is new, epically new.
And big.
How big is it?
Big, big, big.
Epic from the start. You will be wowed, believe me.
Wined and dined or soda and dined. They can do both.
How about a villa for the family?
Whoa! Don't you just love it? It's epic!
The new Great Wolf Lodge in the Pocono Mountains. The latest epic addition to the water park capital of the world.
Go to PoconoMountains.com.
SJ Kowalski is your Mitsubishi Diamond contractor. They can install a Mitsubishi electric Mr. Slim ductless heating and cooling system. Mr. Slim systems are designed to make any living space in your home inviting. You can have a different temperature control for every room in your home. The money-saving technology can save you 25 to 50% on your heating bill. For Mitsubishi, Rinnai, and trained comfort specialists, call SJ Kowalski at 570-455-2600. Hey, did you know WYLN posts news stories and other bonus content on social media all week long? The Weather Kids, Fresh from the Farm, Everyday Heroes, Let's Talk Sports, Feel Good Friday, daily news stories, and more. Visit WYLNTV.com, Facebook, and YouTube to check it out. WYLN, the local leader on social media. We're your local network. Come shoot at Whitetail Preserve, 118 Boulevard Road in Bloomsburg. Their skeet, trap, and sporting clay fields are professionally designed, and all stations are handicapped accessible. Whitetail Preserve has resident shooting instructors certified by the NRA in shotgun, rifle, pistol, home safety, and personal protection in the home. Whitetail can also cater any size event, whether it be a private party, corporate event, or wedding. Call 570-384-2314 or 570-790-8969.
Now you've got the Poconos in the palm of your hand.
For places to stay and shop.
And stories about the Pocono Mountains.
Go to PoconoTelevision.com to download the app and get the information you need for your visit with us.
For all your roofing needs and for a free estimate, call Gerhard Roofing, 570-427-8407. Serving the greater Hazleton and Pocono areas since 1990. Gerhard Roofing in Weatherly.
Hello, I'm WYLN historian Chris Fulmer. Pennsylvania's communities are filled with interesting history. Come with me as we discover the people, events, industries, and other historic facets of local towns.
PPW Nation, get ready for the best of PPW Season 2. Join Paul Bowe, E. Julius Kuiper, Alexander Bravado, Tom Mitchell, and Alex Watt as we take you down memory lane and relive some of the best PPW matches of all time. Saturdays at 5 p.m., Sundays at 10 p.m., only on WYLN.
Do you like craft beer? Do you want to learn the right way to sample wine? How about checking out a restaurant with a unique flavor or a crazy food challenge? These are just some of the things we are featuring on Wine, Hops, and Road Stops. So, spend some time learning about great wine, great beer, and great food on WYLN TV 35.
We welcome you back to the 2024 spring edition of the Weatherly Hill Climb, day number 1. Thank you for joining us on WYLN and also everyone watching on PTN, the Pocono Television Network. I'm Marty Burns, joined by Tom Knorr and President and CEO of the Pocono Mountain Visitors Bureau, Chris Barrett. And also want to remind you that the Weatherly Hill Climb brought to you by Fairway Subaru. But Chris, when we were doing that last heat we were talking about, we're about a month away from NASCAR returning to Pocono, and part of what we talked about earlier with Governor Shapiro was the sponsorship of the main race at Pocono.
Yeah, that was really a pleasant surprise. We knew that the state was talking to the race about it. We did, to Pocono about it And then, they had decided to sponsor that race. So that's good for the industry, but it's really good for the area. The Pocono's a premier, not only regional and national, but international track. So that was really, really a terrific recognition, I think, of Pocono. So we were just thrilled with that. We really, really were. And with the race happening, the races on Saturday and Sunday, now they have the double headers.
Right.
With some heats on Friday, you have a full weekend, and I think they're actually sold out from infield camping. Everything is all sold out already for mostly, I think, every day. And the races themselves are selling pretty well. So the race is still very, very popular. And there's the population of a small, actually pretty big city, when on both days, on Saturday and Sunday. So it's a huge shot in the arm for the region economically, but it's a great race. It really is.
And there was a lot of fan displeasure when they went from 2 races to 1. That was decided by NASCAR. But with you saying how things are sold out already and the excitement that they have, it might actually be more of a benefit, and I'd be curious to see what your thoughts are, but it might be more of a benefit to have the one weekend.
Well, and also the Indy race too, going away. I love the Indy race. I think a lot of people did. So it'll be interesting to see how that all plays out over time. But you have people in the area for an extended period of time. It'll be great to have them come back, but I know it was an experiment and a test in the beginning. NASCAR, both and Pocono, they were very, very satisfied with the results. So I think this is the 3rd year now that they have the race as a doubleheader. So I think it's worked out pretty well.
Yeah, I believe so. But just talk about, and I probably what I'm saying would come under the direction of Captain Obvious, but just the economic impact for
it's tremendous.
The businesses, whether you talk about lodging, food, whatever, or you get those people that'll come maybe a couple days before and stay a couple days after, or both,
right,
to spend time in the Poconos and do things. Just the impact that this Pocono race has on the Poconos.
So there were some economic studies done, one quite recently by Pocono Raceway, and I believe the full economic impact for that weekend was $83 million directly. So that wasn't the indirect effects, that's just direct spend altogether for some of the things that you just mentioned. So for our region, that's an incredible shot in the arm. And again, those are dollars that are all coming into the region that were not here before. So they're new dollars generating a lot of tax income that gives us all the benefits, hopefully, that you receive from tax spend. So it's a really, really strong shot in the arm for the area. And I think the indirect benefits are many, but the indirect benefits is the notoriety of the name, a Pocono Raceway. So it begins to put Pocono Raceway on the map. And when people think about a leisure destination to visit, even if it's not connected with the race, I've heard Pocono somewhere. Yeah. So there's so many benefits that are too numerous to mention, but the direct one's about $83 million.
And I'd be curious to see if Governor Shapiro is able to get the advertising that we talked about. I'm sure that would be a perfect avenue to get in any type of promotional advertisement on a national audience to really highlight the Poconos.
Well, and then the CW network is there, USA, Fox Sports, are carrying their different agreements with the different races, right? As you know, well know. So, you're on a number of different networks, and some of the Nielsen ratings on those they were seen by millions all over the world. So that's where as you know very well know, unearned media, that's where the unearned media comes in. Even Tom said it himself with this hill climb, just the folks coming in from other states to the region, a little smaller. And one thing I will mention about this, and I was going to say when Tom brought this up, but the great part about this is that when a guest comes on our website, the one thing they want to know is, where are the events?
Yeah.
So where are, And you might say, I didn't really know that, but it's true. Where are things like this that you can't see anywhere else? A hill climb. That's not common. People love those kind of things. You know, where are the fairs? You know, the West End Fair, the Carbon County Fair. And people in other states, especially closer, they don't have things like that. So those types of events draw people to the Poconos in ways you wouldn't normally think they would. And then somebody might come to a race and be associated with one of the families or folks operating the cars. They very well could come back 2 or 3 times, and they're probably going to come back in September. So that's a revisit. People might say, well, that's not a lot of people. No, but you can't. Friends and family are still pretty powerful, right? Oh, I went there, so you know, I had a great time. You might want to go too. One person tells another, and that's the oldest form of advertising, no matter what, is I had a great time, you can too. And that's what I think these events do a lot of. And you know, there's a lot of civic pride here, right? 63 years.
Yep.
You know, Joey and the team, like, you know, Joe really resurrected it with his folks. This could have gone the way of the dodo bird, but it didn't, thank God. You know, and now look at all the, I know you and I talk about this all the time, Marty. We like our food. You know, right behind us, you have a lot of organizations, civic organizations locally. This is a big fundraiser for them.
Absolutely.
Right? So, and you know, you can come visit, you know, you can have some great homemade food. It's helping an organization like a church. So it's great. You know, it's just all around. There's a lot of great things that happen with events like this.
And it's free of charge.
And it's free. I forgot the biggest one.
And you know what? Joe's going to come over and yell at us because we haven't mentioned that once.
Oh, my gosh.
Free of charge, free parking, great food.
And great food. And,
Yes.
of course, benefits a lot of great nonprofits.
Yeah,
So
you
that's
can't
always-
beat any of that at all.
Yeah.
You know, I can't believe we didn't say free, but
Oh yeah,
you know, it is.
I'm surprised that Joe's phone hasn't been blown up that we haven't mentioned it yet. So, but like one of the groups, we're at graduation time.
Mm-hmm.
Already, the senior class of 2025 has a stand here. So,
that's great.
various organizations and this is where they make their money for what they want to do for the year, and it's great to see. And so you brought it up, Chris. They've taken an early lunch. So we're going to go and participate in lunch. We're going to take a little break. I believe we're going to, Chris, we're going to tune into PTN and see where you're at with your regular programming. And then, unfortunately, if you're watching PTN and that regular programming, we may cut into it as we come back after lunch. For the afternoon of the 2024 spring edition of the Weatherly Hill Climb, we'll be back in about, I'd say, 45 minutes from now. Stay with us. We'll join regular programming of PTN and be back with you live from Weatherly after lunch. They've taken an early lunch, so we're going to go and participate in lunch. We're going to take a little break. I believe we're going to, Chris, we're going to tune into PTN and see where you're at with your regular programming. And then, unfortunately, if you're watching PTN and that regular programming, we may cut into it as we come back after lunch. For the afternoon of the 2024 spring edition of the Weatherly Hill Climb, we'll be back in about, I'd say, 45 minutes from now. Stay with us. We'll join regular programming of PTN and be back with you live from Weatherly after lunch.